Hello and welcome. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about insulin-resistant symptoms in females, and not only obvious ones, but also the ones that are not so widely talked about. So stay tuned. So hello. Welcome to the Tuesday Live. If you are watching me right now on the live or on the replay, make sure you leave me a comment saying where you're watching from. I would love to know. Some of you I start to get to know. I was very, very pleased last week seeing that some of you have followed me on Instagram. So now I can post, I can actually put the face to the name, which is absolutely fantastic. If you haven't followed me on Instagram yet, now you have my handle here on the screen, so you can go there and follow me. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, if you want to support my channel, make sure that you click a like and that you subscribe so we can see each other every week. Now, today's subject, as I said, is going to be insulin resistance symptoms in females. And of course, we're going to go from the wide to the little. So we're going to start from the typical one. We have Maria tuning in. Maria, I think I saw you on Instagram. It's nice to put a face to a name finally. Hello, Diana from Florida. Hello. Nice to see you, girls. I hope you're doing well today. And let's go straight to it, shall we? Unless we have anybody else putting any questions. If you have been watching any of my old videos or anything about PCOS, you can already start putting any questions that come to mind. I will be picking them up a little bit later. So let's go straight into it and let's go from clinical symptoms. So majority of the things that I'm starting with are going to be general stuff that you probably have heard of before. However, these are super important, and we have to go through them to then go to a little bit more less known symptoms. So if we talk about clinical symptoms, are the symptoms that actually your doctor will look for primarily, right? So they can start making assumptions that you probably have insulin resistance. If you're a woman, right, you're going to have an inch bigger than 35 inches. If you're a man, it's going to be 40. Your blood pressure is going to be higher than 130 by 80, which I'll be honest, when I learned this, I thought it's still not super high. But if you're going to have higher blood pressure than this is already a reason to test you for insulin resistance. A fasting glucose level over 100 milligrams per deciliter, a fasting triglyceride levels over 150 milligrams per deciliter, of course, even more if they're going to be combined together, and HDL cholesterol level under 40. HDL is the good cholesterol, and LDL and under 50 in women. Yeah, so actually high level of HDL cholesterol is good for us, but high level of LDL is not very good for us. So that's important to know. Now, which blood tests you probably will be prescribed to test it on like a clinical level, right? First is going to be fasting plasma glucose test, which basically is a test that it's going to be taken from your blood, and it's going to be taken in a fasted state when you haven't eaten for at least 8 hours. Now, I have found this information that it's going to be at least 8 hours, but please let me know in the comments if you have had this test done and how many hours were you told to fast. In Europe, every time I had this test done, I was supposed to not eat for at least 12 hours. So this might be a little bit different, which is super important and super interesting, because it might seem that we have different guidelines depending on the country. I think that the source of this information right here was American. So the other test, which I also want to ask you girls if you have had it done, and this is oral glucose tolerance test. So majority of doctors, at least as I say, from what I have found in Europe, because I know in US it's a little bit different, will first prescribe you the normal plasma glucose test. And some of them I've heard in US just finish at that. And if that result is okay, they're not diagnosing anymore. However, 12 hours, there you go, Maria agrees with me, 12 hours waiting for a glucose test. Apparently in US is less, and super important, super interesting actually. So oral glucose tolerance test. First you will take the fasting test, then they make you drink this crazy drink, which depends. I've heard that in some fancy places in US now they give you like flavored little, almost like a smoothie with a lot of sugar. in where I was tested in Poland back in the day, it was basically water with a lot of glucose in it. And you have to drink it. You wait 2 hours, and then you have your blood drawn again, and they're checking your oral glucose tolerance test. And in many places and many doctors still recommend those two. So in US, I've heard even this one previous test being prescribed. I've heard a lot in Europe that only those two are being prescribed. And now we're going to go through the third one in a second. But let me know if you have had this test done. How did you find this liquid thing that you have to drink? I have friends, because very often, of course, this test is also every pregnant woman has to have it done to check if they have no digestional, you know what I mean, pregnancy-related diabetes. For some reason, I forgot the word now. And everyone that I know have had this test done, either pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, after pregnancy, they said it was the most disgusting thing ever, and they almost vomited. Never understood what's the problem, just a very, very sweet thing. Maria is chiming in here saying that it's 75 grams of glucose in Bulgaria, and I think it's pretty standard. So that is this test. Now, the third test, which is super important, and I think I mentioned it before, it's hemoglobin A1C test. And this shows you your levels of glucose through the past 2 or 3 months. And doctors use it very often to diagnose prediabetes and diabetes and check if it is under control. So important information is that you might want to repeat this. And I think in one of my lives, I had someone who actually had all of the symptoms of insulin resistance and had A1C, like okay, which is super weird, because if that's the case and you still have majority of symptoms, you should definitely, yes, why can't I pronounce it? Gestational diabetes? I don't know, I can't pronounce it today. I said it a million times. So, this is the only test that my doctor has ever ordered for me. Is it A1C, Diana? Is that what you mean? Because that is better to go this way than the other way. However, the best thing would be to have 3 of them, because I know that the big amount of cases of insulin resistance is being overlooked by just, testing the first one. If you have tested the 2, just smaller one. But if you have all 3, there is very small chance that your insulin resistance is going to be overlooked. So you had A1C done. This is very rare that doctors prescribe just that, but I think that if they're supposed to prescribe you one, this is better than to prescribe only like glucose test. Glucose test doesn't give you a lot of information, because some people can have a good glucose level very, very, after they fast for 12 hours, it can be absolutely fine. But the reaction to food is different. How they release insulin through the insulin resistance symptoms that I talk about a million times: weight gain, inability to lose weight, hirsutism, acne, and hair loss. And those last 3 are, of course, connected to insulin resistance causing high androgen levels in our body. Now, less known symptoms. Let's go. First one is going to be skin tags. And skin tags mostly on the eyelids, on the neck, on the armpits, and on the groin area. So very, very often, we start getting the skin tags, and you see that actually, of course, majority of women that are prone to insulin resistance are going to be women after 45 years old. So if you ever see an older woman who has a lot of skin tags, they probably have pre-diabetes or diabetes or anything like that. So very, very common thing. And actually, funny enough, I have a person in my family who has been super, super taken aback by the fact that she started having a lot of skin tags, and it did turn out later on that she had insulin resistance. We never connected the two until I found out that skin tags are actually a symptom of insulin resistance. Another thing is going to be dark patches, and a dark patch can be like a band of a dark skin. Especially very often it happens in the back of the neck, and then on the armpits, in the groin, and very often also under the knees and around the knees, and even elbows sometimes get very, very dark. So this is also a sign of insulin resistance, and the skin also on these areas feels very, very velvety. So it has different texture, right? So yes, dark patches, velvety skin. It has very specific name, but it's Latin, so we don't have to put it here right now. Now, another insulin resistance symptom is going to be dry, itchy skin. And dry, itchy skin can actually be connected to a few different things. There we go. Some doctors say it's associated with thyroid issues as well. Can you tell me which one? Which one do you mean? Well, clearly, because I'm asking. Let me know, because let's see if we can, like, go back and how it could be influenced by thyroid. Many of those things, and I was just going to say, even with dry, itchy skin, it can be also influenced by other things. So very often high levels of glucose in your body can cause dry, itchy skin, but also dry, itchy skin can be caused by problems with liver. So as you can see, those two things can be connected. The darker skin around the neck, I've never heard it to be connected to thyroid, but possibly. I will take a look at that, but majority of time I've heard it being connected to insulin resistance. Yes, something like that. Exactly. Thank you for this, Maria. So yeah, high levels of glucose. We seem to have hypoglycemia, glucose and ketones in my urine 4 times AC1. First of all, having ketones in your urine, for example, if you're going keto, is nothing weird, because ketosis versus ketoacidosis is something different. If you have glucose and ketones, that's a little bit concerning. However, if I were you, because let me know if you have any issues with doctors, to go back to them and ask them this question, because of course I shouldn't be the one giving you this medical advice. But if I could maybe provide you, not on keto diet. So yeah, that might be a little concerning, unless you have been fasting this time for a little bit, because ketones by itself is not bad, but glucose in the urine is not the best. So first of all, go back to your doctor, because if you have ketoacidosis, of course, it's important to have it checked, because it can be dangerous. So go to your doctor. And if you want to provide them with a little extra information, you can, no fasting either, Tracy says. If you want to provide them a little extra information, if you could buy the glucometer, and test yourself throughout the day a few times. I'm pretty sure that if you search for it, like specific protocol, you can find it, but at least a few times a day. And if you can prick your finger, you have special like little needles to check it. And if you could measure your glucose and, make notes how your glucose is throughout the day, that will help. But again, Tracy, the doctor is waiting. So don't panic. If you're feeling okay, if you're functioning, that's fine. But if you have glucose in your urine and ketones, this is definitely something to try, because if you're going to turn out to be pre-diabetic or diabetic, you might have to, we might have a need to have an insulin or go keto. But that, of course, your doctor will determine. Let's go further. We are going to Google, by the way, together this. Who asked me this? Was it Diana? Diana, we're going to Google in a minute whether this, Maria says that the glucometer is really useful, especially if you have this roller coaster, ups and downs and ups and downs. It will help you get a little bit better picture of how it will work. Now, another insulin resistance symptom that is not very often talked about is frequent urination. And also, from what I've read, although it was kind of mixed messaging, because sometimes it was saying that it is connected only to the diabetes and sometimes also with insulin resistance, was frequent infections in, vaginal infections. So that can be also a symptom to look out for. However, it was quite conflicting data, and the articles that I found about the infections were not 100% determined whether it's going to be just diabetes or insulin resistance, right? So it's kind of conflicting information. And now another thing is insulin resistant symptom is tingling sensation in hands and your feet. So if you start noticing your hands numbing or feet numbing, first thing that you're gonna think is, are you missing any vitamins B? Are you missing maybe any electrolytes, and are you dehydrated? So first you're gonna get yourself a good electrolyte drink. Second, you're gonna make sure that you're supplementing on vitamins B. And if that doesn't solve the issue, you might have to get tested for insulin resistance. So make sure that you look out for this thing. Another thing is going to be increased thirst, of course, and almost like an unquenched thirst. So that is another thing. And another thing is going to be swollen ankles. And that is because, again, insulin actually helps us keep the sodium in water and sodium in our body and helps with all the electrolyte balance. So if you have any problems with insulin, your electrolytes can be in a different position. And also, if you have watched my video last week about keto diet and insulin resistance, you will see as well that the sugar and insulin and electrolytes are very connected in our body, because water is actually the thing that is binding our sugar molecules. Possible neuropathy, absolutely. And this is the case for most of the symptoms. Doctors will never diagnose you from one symptom only. But if you start noticing a pattern, and if you start noticing that maybe you don't have one of those symptoms, but three, like even to be diagnosed with PCOS, you have three major Rotterdam criteria, right? So you have to have absent or intermittent ovulation, you have to have cyst of the ovaries, and what was the third? Lack of periods or irregular periods. So this, you have to have 2 out of 3 to even be diagnosed. So of course you can have neuropathy. You can have nerve damage from all sorts of issues. You might have oxygen issues even this year. There are plenty reasons of why you can have the tingling feeling in your feet, and also swollen feet, right? Because as you can see, insulin is needed for sodium to be binded and for our kidneys to deal with water in a better way. However, the problem can be on all sorts of parts, right? It can be the problem that you just don't have enough electrolytes. It can be a problem that you have bad levels of insulin, and it can be problem somewhere only in kidneys. So these are just the symptoms that should prompt you to have better testing, right? High androgens, there you go. So I said one thing twice. So it should be less lack of ovulation, intermittent ovulation, high androgens, and polycystic ovaries in the picture. And the androgens, funny enough, I don't know if you know this, but in Rotterdam criteria, when it is described, they actually say that you don't have to have your androgens tested, and it's enough to have the signs of high androgens. So if you have acne, hair loss, hirsutism, they're going to automatically assume that you have high levels of androgens, and the doctor doesn't have to prescribe you any tests or prove it in any other way, but just from observation. So those are those weird insulin resistance symptoms. So I think that for me, the most weird one when I found out was skin tags, because I would never associate it with insulin resistance. Let me know if you have any of those, or if you have known about them. Hopefully our connection is stable enough now. I don't see any problems here. Yes. We were supposed to Google. Yeah, let's Google together, shall we? Let me just open Google first. And let's share a screen and let's check this. Yes, let's do this. Let me see if you guys can see my Google. There you go. So, dark skin patches, thyroid. Painless lumps and patches of scaly skin, lumps of discolored skin. I don't think that's looking the same. Melasma, more like hyperpigmentation, but it's Graves' disease. It's different. Of course, this is not the best source because it's not the scientific article. Velvety and warm skin. Velvety skin, you see, can be. Doughy widening nose, sweating goiter, protruding eyes, but that's hyper. Hair, nails. Vitiligo. No, we didn't find our answer. Let's do this. So I can find the actual name. Acatonsis nigricans. That's why I didn't put it in, because I don't know how to read it. All right, let's find this. Maybe associated with this, that hyperinsulinemia is a correlated, and the treatment of the hypothyroidism does not resolve hyperinsulinemia. That's a bit, wait. It is concluding that hypothyroidism may be associated with dark patches, that hyperinsulinemia is the regular correlate. Yeah, well, I never heard about the link, for example, of insulin resistance to hypothyroidism, but I have both, and I didn't have dark patches with either. But yes, it can be associated with this. I would love to actually go deeper and see if they look very, very similar, or is there any difference? Like, I don't know, in case of thyroid, it is only on the neck, but it will never be in your groin or something like that. Or is it that, hypothyroidism, the whole thing about hypothyroidism, which I know we're going a little bit off topic as well, is that both PCOS, insulin resistance, right, and hypothyroidism have a problem with creating energy. So in terms of thyroid, now I might not say it right now because I'm live, but in case of thyroid, we need our thyroid hormones as well to produce energy in mitochondria. And of course, our T3, T4 are signaling hormones between our thyroid and our cells, as usual, every hormone is. And if something there is actually skewed, women with hypothyroidism also are fatigued constantly and also gain weight. So it might be for a different reason, but their blood sugar is also high because for a different reason, their sugar might be going into cells. So in insulin resistance, you have that blockage almost, that insulin doesn't open the gate to a cell, but in hypothyroidism, it is. But in your mitochondria, something is happening there, I think, that you cannot produce the energy. So in both cases, whichever it is, the blood sugar is going to be too high because it's not converted in the correct way to energy, right? Don't quote me on that. This is my understanding of what I have read. And if you haven't seen my video about hypothyroidism and how it works, I was a little better prepared to that subject then to explain it better. So you can go there. I don't know about skin tags. I do have a few on my armpits. I have a few on my neck, actually. And by the way, today I was playing with my chin all the time because my whiskers are growing back, which is fantastic. That makes sense, yeah. So in both ways, in both of those things, high blood sugar, sugar staying in the blood will cause this dark patches. Girls, we have few people watching. Please ask me questions if you have about insulin resistance. Let me know which test you have had done, because I would love to know which ones did you have done and which one did actually confirm your insulin resistance, because that is super interesting for me. And let's see. And in the meantime, ask me questions in the comments below and I will be able to answer. And if you haven't, by the way, if you haven't followed me yet on my Instagram, make sure you do so. And as well, I have a link now in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link to the description to my new group, which I want to leave open because I want us to have a daily conversation in there. And I would love us to be able to exchange information. And if I have, like today, I threw in one of the articles that I came across where I was doing a little bit more research and further research in our little PCOS insulin resistant subjects. So there are going to be links. When we're going to have a little bit more people, we're going to host a little bit bigger lives when maybe we can even talk to each other live. I could invite you to the studio and we could be talking to each other live or in the comments. And of course, you can talk with each other and ask each other questions and best practices and everything like that. So make sure that you join this group and we are going to be talking there. Come on, any questions? Welcome to my live show. It went pretty quick. Sorry if I've been a little scatterbrained, but these problems with the internet completely threw me off. Yeah, this was something for me, the insulin resistance tingling sensation in hands and feet that I didn't know about. I knew that for people with diabetes, that might be a problem, but that's a problem a little bit down the road, that the first sign, and even my friend actually had diabetes diagnosed this way, where he was he had a wound on the foot that didn't actually heal very well. And one more thing, I have another comment from Maria that I want to mention that I didn't mention in this list for a reason. There are a few different rashes that you might get, which you might get whether you are insulin resistant or whether you are diabetic. One of these rashes look like a lot of little bumps, like a lot of pimples almost, one next to the other. The difference is that they're starting with being pink, but then they turn being yellow, and that can be a sign of a big problem with insulin. Another thing that I saw was like a big patch of, it was called like, it was almost like a dead skin, because, well, you probably have heard about it, that also in diabetes you might have like a, what is it called? It's not called dead in English, but you know, your skin is dying and your tissues are dying basically. And so you can have a big patch of skin. I didn't want to put those pictures here because they were pretty graphic, and it can disappear and reappear. It can get better, worse, and so on. But if it is something like a big patch of skin, then it can be also connected to insulin resistance. There were also blisters that might be connected to both insulin resistance and diabetes. So very, very interesting stuff from the skin point of view. Now, Maria, you have had glucose tolerance and test and insulin levels. I have impaired glucose tolerance without insulin resistance, but due to the pill, my insulin increased dramatically. I have actually tried to find a good source for impaired glucose tolerance versus insulin resistance, but I didn't find any good enough articles to feel like I have a really stable understanding of a subject. It seems like they're not that easy to find, and those things are very often treated not treated as in with treatments, but are like used intermittent in some studies. You know, when they study any medication or supplement, they're studying for both impaired glucose tolerance and insulin resistance. From what I gathered, and Maria, please tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong, insulin resistance is, as I said, that the insulin doesn't open the thing. But I think there is no problem with insulin. You don't have high insulin with impaired glucose tolerance. It's just that your cell cannot get even though the sugar is in, there's some problem there. Where's the problem? Because if you have any good sources, let me know. I would love to get a deeper read and find out more about this. Diana, my A1C is 6.4 and I need to lose weight to start managing my PCOS. My doctor prescribed metformin. Berberine, yes. Definitely try berberine if you can first. That seems to be magical and even better working than metformin. So I would definitely recommend you to try that. And the thing is, and let me know if you ever had this, like if you have insulin resistance and you had horrible cravings and you have horrible, sorry, I just saw another comment and I got off the subject. If you have horrible hungers because of your insulin resistance, if you're fatigued, especially, you know, if you have crashes, you're starting to eat more, hoping that you're going to have more energy and that's going to bring you throughout the day. If you don't eat more, then you have binges because of insulin resistance. So of course, and also like even if you restrict, and I told you that before many, many times, I have had a period of time when I restricted to 1,500 calories, and I mean weighing every single ingredient. And I was still gaining weight. So the doctors sometimes saying, you have to lose weight. It's the most stupid thing I've ever heard, because you have to address the issue to be able to lose weight. Like insulin resistance, and doctors know that insulin resistance means you have difficulty losing weight. So it's not that simple. If you are on the pill, do you recommend trying to correct your insulin resistance while still on it, or stop taking pill then correct it? if you have insulin resistance and you're on the pill, you can start working towards fixing your insulin resistance while you are still on the pill. The pill is not great, but the pill is not great for a variety of reasons. It also, it can increase hunger, for example, because of the hormones that it has in. People have water retention, people have weight gain. However, today everything is going wrong. Even my light just died. Great. People have all sorts of, pill gives you all sorts of weird stuff, so you can have digestion issues, you can have weight gain, as I said, and different stuff. However, some stuff you can fix with the diet. So you can start, for example, taking berberine, you can start lowering your carbohydrates, you can start going keto, and this will already improve things if you are managed to do it while on the pill, because it also influences your hunger. But if you are not, then of course, ideally, none of us would be on the pill, and we would all be great. And don't get me wrong, pill is fantastic invention and changed the world and how we can work and have lives now. But it's not very healthy for us. And also, I have seen a great meme. I have 4 more comments, so I'm going to go through them one by one. But I've seen a great meme that if men had to take birth control pill that lowers their libido like the pill does to us, that would be completely banned. So, and this is just libido, not talking about other problems. Let's see. Does insulin resistance, hello Heather, by the way, I don't think I said hi to you yet. Does insulin resistance cause high blood pressure? How long does it take to reverse high blood pressure after starting keto? That is a little complicated subject, because high blood pressure can be connected to many things on the route. So high blood pressure can be connected to insulin resistance, but it can also be connected to high cholesterol. So what very often happens, people very often, by the way, connect high cholesterol to high fat diet, which is not correct, because there is nothing wrong with cholesterol in our body. And 90% of the cholesterol that we have floating through our body is cholesterol that we produce ourselves and not cholesterol from our diets. So what happens very often is that when we eat sugar and we eat a lot of carbohydrates, we start to have those not calcifications, but like little micro tears in our veins, which can be caused from too high blood levels because we have problem with insulin resistance and so on. So we have micro tears in our veins, and cholesterol is our natural plaster in our body. It goes in and it patches it, right? It sees something and it patches it. It patches. And many people look then that you have high cholesterol and they're like, well, you have to eliminate eggs or you have to eliminate bacon. The truth is that you have to eliminate sugar. And combining sugar and fat is the worst thing. But if you do that, even if you have high cholesterol, is good. And why do I mention cholesterol and high blood pressure? Because high blood pressure is then the result very often of high cholesterol. So your high insulin, high blood sugar levels cause you to have high blood sugar. High blood sugar causes you to have high cholesterol. High cholesterol causes you to have high blood pressure. So when you start going keto, it will slowly, get better. I cannot give you a timeline because everybody is different. And unfortunately, I would love to say anything about that. But of course, it is important to work with your doctor and check if you don't have any other conditions that would contribute to that. But definitely, if you start going keto, you lower your insulin and you will start losing weight because, big weight also can be causing high blood pressure. Then it should slowly start getting better. Tracy, I am suspicious because every time I eat, sweating profusely, shaking, eyes watering, because I saw today when I was reading, especially about diabetes, that blurry vision can be also a sign of diabetes. Whether it is still insulin resistance or not, I don't know, or is it just diabetes? Sweating profusely every time you eat. Well, that sounds like something with blood sugar. Shaking sounds like crush when you haven't eaten for a little bit. Eyes watering. You should be tested probably for more stuff with your digestive system as well, because ice watering. Do you have stomach aches? Do you ever have, maybe you have some inflammation in your system on top of that? Could be. Blurry vision. Yeah, definitely get checked again for your sugars, and tell all of that you're telling to me to your doctor, and demand all 3 of those tests. And let me know, by the way, Tracy, I don't know if I asked you this before, where are you tuning in from? Because I'm going to be very interested how the health system is there, because I know that some areas are worse than the others. Okay, we're back to impaired glucose tolerance. My doctor told me that my body just doesn't handle carbs as well it should be. Great explanation from a doctor. Yes, I agree that losing weight is really stupid advice. I was ill from anorexia and still have high blood sugar. Exactly. And that's what people don't realize. And I want to share with you guys talking about, because thank you, Maria, for sharing this, by the way. I used to be borderline bulimic, I think. This is not something that I was diagnosed with, but I was really blaming myself for doing it and for overeating and then purging. However, now, knowing what I know about my insulin levels, I'm going to tell you what was about in a second. Then I started realizing that it was not my fault that I was binging and purging and binging, because I was never full. When I felt sick in my stomach from fullness and my stomach was hurting, I was still hungry, and I was still, ravenously hungry. So people don't. And also what I love is, like, you're gaining weight and you tell someone that you're bulimic and they're like, but you're not skinny. Thanks. Great thing to say to bulimic. So I don't like the pill and plan to stop, but I get scared that going several months without a period is not the best either. Thanks for the advice. You don't know if you're going to go a few months without a period, first of all, unless you haven't had periods before. I wouldn't worry too much about not bleeding for several months. And if you're concerned about that, you can bring it up to your doctor, and they can possibly give you, it's called Dufaston. So they can prescribe you that. So in case you are not getting period, you can still take just that. And that is going to give you, like, again, bleeding from, quitting it. However, already, this you just take 10 days before your period, before your planned period. So it is a little less invasive. You can also maybe talk about mini pill with your doctor, because that might also be the way to kind of wean off and start getting your body adapted. But if you really want to make this transition smooth, I would say stay on the pill until you put new habits in place. So put new diet in place, put, sleeping and resting and meditating, start on a good supplement regime. And after a while, when you already think, okay, I've already prepared, because changing habits is very mental. It's not only physically changing what you do. It is very mental thing. So you have to make your body used to certain things, And at the beginning, maybe if you would decide, for example, to go keto or low carb or only whole foods or stuff like that, just to lower your insulin, quitting sugar, first of all, then you might be going back and forth, because it's difficult transition. So give yourself that time, start working on that already while you're still on the pill, and then you will be ready as much as you can be ready when the pill goes off. And start taking inositol if you can, because that should also make your ovaries a little bit more insulin sensitive, so they're ready to ovulate. And then, of course, if you do have ovulation, you should have a period, although you can have non-ovulatory periods, but that's another thing. Blurry vision, yeah. Ultrasonograms, thank you. England, I am so surprised. Where in England are you from, by the way? My boyfriend is English as well, so let's see if you're from similar area. So let me know where in England you are. I would have thought that NHS was a little bit better than that, but I have heard my few stories from my boyfriend, from bad GPs, and how they are prescribing like antidepressants to everybody, and just generic ones as well. Absolutely. Explain. So bulimic episodes and didn't feel full. Exactly, because you can have just like mental bulimia, I would say, but definitely physical. This is the new thing that I'm decided to name it. A physical bulimia syndrome is definitely real, at least in my and Maria's experience. You can go without a period for a year, then have extremely heavy periods that last 6 weeks or so. Do fast on 5 days, 3 times a day, and the period comes. Exactly, that was I have been prescribed. So that is another way of making your period come back, but kind of weaning off the pill, taking it every day, apart from this 1 week. And of course, with Dufastan, it's still fake. You still probably didn't ovulate. But if you're concerned about not having period for a long time due to increased uterine cancer and due to heavy bleeding for 6 weeks, which of course might cause anemia and stuff, then when you eventually decide to go off the pill, if you go all the stuff that I just explained, then you can in case it doesn't come, there are other solutions to bring your period back, not necessarily going the full pill regimen. As the doctor checked me for PCOS because I have excessive hair, he said I don't have it because my testosterone levels are normals. Are there other ways to diagnose? Yes. First of all, you should have made I think Dutch. I'm not sure if Dutch test, and I'm sure Maria will know if Dutch test is only for testosterone, because you should really have tested like all spectrum. So you should have testosterone, you should have DHT, and you should have DHEAs tested, because there can be different androgens that are high in your body. It's not only testosterone. Very often, for example, with hair loss, and I'm guessing also with excessive hair growth, it's actually conversion of testosterone to DHT that is causing those symptoms, not necessarily just free testosterone. So if you have even suspicion that you might have high androgens, again, lowering your insulin, especially that you do have insulin resistance, then insulin resistance very often has those other stuff quite high. So I am guessing that if you would finally address your insulin resistance, and if you would go on a journey, few years journey, to find a way that you can keep it at bay, in your own way, whether it is berberine or whether it is fully natural methods or wherever suits you, that those symptoms should get better as well, because those are, of course, very often connected with insulin resistance as well. And also Maria gives you, check that's one androstenedione, DHEAs, a 7-OH progesterone. Yeah, we talked about it the other time. So there are much more androgens, and I know that 17-OH progesterone doesn't sound like androgen, but it is. So make sure you check all of them to be able to say whether you have high androgens or not, because it's not one type of androgen that is so simple. And in many cases, I kind of understand doctors, because you can't. Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Maria, for helping Heather. That's why both of you should come to my group in case I, middle of the week cannot answer something, or maybe I even can. We can all help each other and find those informations together. So as I said, I wish it was so simple that we could just go and test our insulin resistance with one test and have a definite answer. Or there you go. Maria mentioned it in previous lives. You have normal testosterone, but high I can never read this. Wait, I'm going to do it this time. Androstenedione, and have PCOS. There you go. I had testosterone tested once. My doctors refused to test me for high testosterone, even though I had acne for 18 years. And my skin, I was just, funny enough, I will tell you a quick story. I was just talking to my boyfriend today, and we've been doing a post for our work. And we did Throwback Thursday, and I have found pictures from 2 years ago, June 2019. And there was a picture of my skin, full makeup and everything. And I had a lot of big blemishes, still not as much as I used to have sometimes, because already being in the sun have helped. But definitely there were some. And I'm actually wondering, should I show you that that here maybe in a bit? But even though I had it and I had it for 18 years, my doctor just checked my testosterone once and only testosterone, and never checked anything else. And even though I didn't try the whole plethora of supplements, I decided to do everything as natural as I could and as cheap as I could, which was going keto, and that have solved my acne. And even though I'm still kind of, I almost went keto after last week's live, that I'm still a bit on and off. So I'm trying to eat as, a lot of fat and protein during the day, but I might have a little bit of carbs at night, trying to avoid sugar, of course, and stuff like that. But even though I haven't been fully keto for the last 5 or 6 months, my acne never kicked back like it did. So even if you are scared of going keto, because you're afraid that you cannot hold it together forever, you cannot be keto forever. Try for a few months, hopefully even for a year. I would say minimum of 3 months. Perfect would be 6 months. Fantastic would be a year. And then you will see a difference in your skin that hopefully, even if you would go off keto, would last a little bit. I was very surprised that it did, but it does. However, as I told you guys, my hormones, I can feel, have been a little bit wonky. I was even afraid that I was pregnant last month. So my hormones were a bit up and down. And because of that, I might have to go back keto, because keto regulates hormones, because it's high-fat diet. So Heather, if you feel like you can handle doing keto, I think, even though people think it's the most miserable option, is the least miserable option, because lowering your insulin that low will actually switch off eventually after a couple of weeks your sugar cravings, and you will not struggle losing weight as much, because you struggle probably losing weight because of insulin, right? Or because we all do, as we discussed with Maria before. All right, ladies, again, reminder, join my group. Say hi there. I have a post for everybody to say hi. I also was planning maybe to do a little after party there today, but I didn't have a lot of response. So if you want me to host like after parties there when we can possibly just all talk together, that would be, let me know there in the group. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, the link is in the description right now. And if you're watching on YouTube, give me a like and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, give me a like. And if you want to find the group, it's attached to my page. I love that we have still few people watching. I'm sorry that I didn't find out where Tracy was about in England. I was looking forward to that. And that is it for today. I am going to try to release next live in the next few days. Please let me know what you want me to talk about. Still, Maria, impaired glucose tolerance might take me a little bit more to research and find out about, but let me know if there is anything else that you want me to talk about on those lives, and hopefully next time no technical issues. God, this is the problems with the live show. Okay, my loves, I'm gonna be finishing right now, so again, thank you for watching, and bye.